Not every battle inside the royal family begins with the throne. Sometimes it begins with a cold, dismissive attitude toward a 3-year-old child. Meghan Markle, once seen as a symbol of modern change within the monarchy, did not choose silence. But her assertiveness, rather than building connection, revealed something sharper, a gesture so emotionally detached, so quietly cruel, especially when directed at Princess Charlotte, the youngest daughter of the future monarch. Kate Middleton didn't need hard evidence. She felt it as any mother would when her child is treated in a way that crosses an invisible line. And William, the one who had endured media pressure with restraint for years, could no longer stand aside when his own daughter became the target of repeated indifference inside what was supposed to be their home. Within palace walls where every smile is rehearsed and every exchange wrapped in protocol, it wasn't a public outburst or dramatic confrontation that exposed the truth. It was Charlotte's quiet refusal to meet a gaze. A child's instinct became the loudest indictment. No words were spoken, no formal declaration made, but the message was unmistakable. The moral line had been crossed. And in the end, what shocked the public wasn't just the tension between the royal members. It was the question no one dared say aloud. Why would a grown woman choose to assert power over a child? The wedding of Harry and Meghan at St. George's Chapel was a spectacle of royal splendor, captivating the world through countless camera lenses and live broadcasts. Princess Charlotte, just 3 years old, stole hearts as a tiny bridesmaid. Dressed in a pristine white gown, her golden hair tied with a silk ribbon, she clutched a small bouquet, her clear eyes sparkling with curiosity and a hint of nervousness. Charlotte toddled down the stone aisle, carefully balancing in her tiny shoes under a long hem, each step a charming moment that drew whispers from guests. So adorable, a perfect little princess. Focused and earnest, she gripped her flowers tightly as if guarding a precious treasure entrusted to her for this momentous day. But in a fleeting moment, Charlotte tripped on her too long dress. She stumbled, her bouquet slipping from her hands, white lily petals, scattering like lost snowflakes across the floor. A soft chuckle rippled through the guests, not mocking, but sympathetic, endeared by a child's innocent clumsiness. Kate, elegant, in a pale blue dress nearby, knelt instantly beside her daughter. "It's okay, my love," she whispered, her voice soft yet steady. "You're doing wonderfully." She brushed petals from Charlotte's dress, offering a warm smile that restored the little girl's confidence. Charlotte looked up, her cheeks rosy, a shy smile breaking through, her eyes bright again. The guests gave a gentle applause, touched by the tender mother-daughter moment amid the ceremony's grandeur. Meghan, the bride in a flawless white gown, stood at the chapel's edge, her eyes fixed on Charlotte. But her gaze wasn't the warm, understanding look one might expect from a bride on her joyous day. It was a sharp, icy glare, her lips pressed tight as if Charlotte's stumble was an unforgivable mistake, a blemish on the perfect picture Meghan had meticulously crafted. Her look wasn't just irritation. It carried a hint of disdain, as if the 3-year-old had deliberately disrupted her spotlight. Meghan tilted her head, her hands tightening around her own bouquet, a silent message heavy with tension. How could this happen? That brief moment, like an invisible blade, sliced through the chapel's air, sowing an unease that lingered. Kate, comforting Charlotte, felt the chill of Meghan's stare. Her maternal instincts surged and she hugged her daughter closer, as if shielding her from an undefined threat. She didn't look up, didn't confront Meghan, but her heart skipped a beat, planting a seed of doubt, not just about Meghan, but about fractures that might grow within the royal family. William, in his regal uniform near the altar, saw it all. He caught Meghan's cold glance, noting its impatience and inappropriateness on a wedding day, especially toward an innocent child like Charlotte. He said nothing, offering Harry a congratulatory handshake, with a polite smile that masked his growing suspicion. A child's clumsiness is natural, he thought, his eyes flickering toward Meghan, but glaring at a child for it, that's character. Meghan ascended the altar, radiant under the flash of cameras, her perfect smile concealing all emotion. But her icy glance at Charlotte left a crack that couldn't be mended, the first sign of discord. Kate and William, though silent, sensed that Meghan wasn't just a newcomer trying to fit in. She was a dangerous variable, her ambition and attitude threatening their family's unity. Charlotte, the tiny princess, unwittingly became the focal point of a silent conflict, a battle not just between individuals, but between family loyalty and one woman's ambition. The wedding meant to be a celebration of harmony instead marked the start of a deep rift, laying the foundation for tensions that would soon erupt. Trooping the color. The annual celebration of the Queen's birthday, one of the British monarchy's grandest events. On the Buckingham Palace balcony, the royal family stood in formation, waving to the cheering crowds below, presenting a flawless image of dynastic unity. Princess Charlotte, just 3, stood close to Kate, her pale blue silk dress swaying as she clutched her mother's hand. Though accustomed to big events, she seemed unsettled by the crowd's roar. Kate, with a gentle smile, leaned down to whisper encouragement, coaxing a smile from Charlotte, her clear eyes brightening with renewed confidence. William nearby watched his wife and daughter, with warm but vigilant eyes, a silent protector. Meghan, elegant in a cream-colored dress, stood behind her, smile meticulously polished, as if rehearsed for her new royal role. But the solemnity shattered when the ceremonial cannons fired their booming echoes, startling Charlotte. Her eyes widened in fear, tears welling up, and she flung herself into Kate's arms, burying her face in her mother's dress, her small shoulders trembling. Kate instantly enveloped her, whispering, "I'm here, my love. It's okay." Her voice was soft but firm, a fortress shielding Charlotte from her overwhelming emotions. She stroked her daughter's hair, each gesture calming her, her eyes never leaving Charlotte, ensuring she felt safe. Meghan, standing behind, leaned forward to watch. Her lips curved into a strange smile, not one of empathy or concern for a frightened child, but a smirk almost mocking, as if she found Charlotte's vulnerability amusing. The smile, brief but telling, revealed a coldness at odds with the warmth expected of a royal. Meghan's eyes seemed calculating, as if she saw Charlotte's moment of weakness as a chance to assert her own superiority over Kate and her daughter. William, nearby, caught that smile. His eyes darkened, the vague suspicion from the wedding now solidifying into a clear warning. This wasn't a fleeting or innocent moment. He saw Meghan's smirk as a sign of an unacceptable attitude, specially directed at his terrified daughter. He stood still, his smile maintaining protocol, but inside a line had been drawn between him and his new sister-in-law. Meghan quickly resumed her neutral expression, waving to the crowd as if the smile never happened, her face a perfect mask of poise. But Kate, busy comforting Charlotte, felt the chill from behind. Her maternal instincts flared, and she held Charlotte tighter, as if guarding her from an unseen threat she couldn't yet name. Charlotte, in her mother's arms, gradually calmed, but her eyes held a flicker of unease, as if she sensed the tension in the air. She gripped Kate's hand, seeking safety from something even she couldn't understand. That fleeting balcony moment was a turning point. The suspicion from the wedding was now cemented by a concrete act, Meghan's smirk at Charlotte's fear. Kate and William, though unspoken, recognized that Meghan wasn't just struggling to fit in. She was a dangerous variable, her ambition and attitude threatening their family's unity. Charlotte, the tiny princess, unwittingly became the center of a simmering conflict where family loyalty clashed with personal ambition. That unexpected smile laid the groundwork for deeper conflicts, promising to shake the monarchy in the days to come. In the cozy drawing room of Clarence's house, the soft glow of a crystal chandelier bathed the space in warm light, creating an atmosphere both elegant and intimate. Heavy crimson velvet curtains blocked the fading London afternoon, isolating the room from the outside world. On a polished ebony table, a pristine white porcelain tea set gleamed, the steam from Earl Grey tea carrying a faint bergamot scent, mingling with the room's stillness. Camilla, in a deep green silk dress, sat poised, her polite smile masking razor-sharp eyes that studied Meghan's every move. Meghan, in an elegant gray dress, sat opposite her, hands clasped tightly, betraying the tension and frustration bubbling within her. Camilla spoke first, her voice slow and melodic, like a seasoned storyteller. "Meghan, in this family, if you don't claim your place, they'll always keep you in the background." Her words were gentle but piercing, slicing through the facade Meghan had built to hide her mounting resentments. Camilla knew Meghan's frustrations, feeling isolated compared and treated as an outsider in the royal fold, and she deliberately fanned those flames, turning them into a weapon. Meghan frowned, her eyes flashing with confusion and anger. She leaned forward, her voice tinged with bitterness. "I don't understand why Kate always acts superior. Whether it's a look or the way she speaks, I feel it. Like she's reminding me I don't belong here." She paused, lips pressed tight, struggling to contain a storm of emotions. Her early months as a royal bride had been a harsh trial, unwritten rules, scrutinizing glances from palace insiders, and a sense of being pushed to the margins of a world she didn't fully grasp. The wedding incident, when her cold glance at Charlotte was noticed by Kate and William, only heightened her sense of being watched and judged. Camilla sipped her tea, her movements deliberate, prolonging the charged silence. Her eyes gleamed like a chess player, spotting the perfect piece in a complex game. She knew Meghan was a variable that could disrupt the monarchy's stability, and she chose to exploit it. Because Kate has children with the heir to the throne, she said, her voice even, but each word calculated. She wants to control everything, the image, the attention, and especially Charlotte, the beloved little princess. If you stay in the shadows, Meghan, your children will be overshadowed. You must demand to stand equal with Kate side by side at every event. Equal in status, equal in presence. Never less, never. Camilla's words were a subtle spark, quiet, but capable of igniting a wildfire. She not only stoked Meghan's discontent, but deftly directed it at Kate, turning a personal grievance into a direct confrontation. Camilla knew Kate and William, with their strong public and royal standing, were a formidable barrier. But she also saw Meghan, with her ambition and sensitivity to injustice, as the perfect tool to sow division, weakening the younger royals' unity. Meghan hesitated, her eyes wavering between doubt and ambition. She knew challenging Kate, a public darling, was risky, but her resentment, fed by months of scrutiny and comparison, now burned fiercely. "Do you think William would agree?" she asked, her voice low, as if weighing a dangerous move. The wedding incident lingered in her mind. William's suspicious glance, Kate's coldness, and she knew any action could push her further to the edge. Camilla smiled, a cold, knowing smile like a chess player, ready to make a decisive move. "They don't need to agree," she replied, her voice steady but heavy with intent. "You just can't back down. In this family, those who stay silent lose." Her words fueled the fire smoldering in Meghan's heart, turning vague frustrations into a burning resolve. Camilla subtly planted the idea that Meghan wasn't just fighting for herself, but for her future children's place in the monarchy. Yet behind her advice lay a deeper scheme. Camilla aimed to use Meghan as a pawn to destabilize Kate and William's unity, creating a crack she could exploit to bolster her own influence. Meghan left Clarence House as dusk fell, London's streets glowing red. She walked with newfound confidence, but her heart churned with ambition and resentment. Unbeknownst to her, she had stepped into a chess game. Camilla had long orchestrated each move, calculated to deepen the royal divide. Camilla didn't just want Meghan to challenge Kate. She wanted to push her into a battle she couldn't win, weakening both sides and leaving space for Camilla to maneuver. Alone in the quiet room, Camilla gazed out the window, sipping her tea. Her eyes gleamed with satisfaction, like someone who'd lit a spark and was waiting to see what it would burn. She knew a single ember could set the monarchy ablaze, and she stood in the shadows watching her plan unfold. The late afternoon light filtered through Kensington Palace's tall windows, casting a soft glow over William's study. The room, with its ancient oak-paneled walls and shelves lined with royal history books, exuded solemn simplicity. A large oak desk sat at its center, stacked with neatly organized documents, a reminder of the weighty responsibilities of a future king. William, in a dark suit, sat behind the desk, his gaze sharp yet calm, waiting for Meghan to enter. Meghan, in an elegant gray dress, stepped in with a confident air, though a trace of tension lingered. She sat across from William, her hands clasped, tightly bracing for a difficult conversation. No Harry, no Kate, no one else, just the two of them, face to face in a space where truth couldn't hide. William met her eyes, his voice low but cutting like steel. "I saw how you looked at my daughter." His words were direct, stripped of the usual royal diplomacy, a blunt accusation that pierced Meghan's carefully crafted facade. Meghan froze, a flicker of panic crossing her eyes before she regained composure. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied defensively. "I've never done anything to Charlotte." Her voice aimed for confidence, but a slight tremble betrayed her, as if she knew she couldn't fully conceal the truth. William didn't waver, his gaze piercing through her defenses. "And I saw you smile when she was scared on the balcony," he continued, his voice calm but heavy with authority. "Don't do it again." His words weren't just a warning, They were a clear boundary, a declaration that any threat to his daughter would not be tolerated. Meghan shot to her feet, her eyes flashing with anger. "You're accusing me over a glance." A smile. Her voice rose, trembling with the sting of being attacked. "I'm not the enemy, William. I'm just trying to fit into this family. But all I get is suspicion and distance." She turned to the window, hiding the emotions flooding her. But inside anger mixed with fear, fear that she was losing the place she'd fought so hard to claim. William remained seated, his gaze unrelenting. "You know exactly what I'm talking about," he said, his voice low but firm. "And I hope I don't have to say it again." He stood walking out slowly, leaving Meghan alone in the chilly room. Despite the warmth of the fireplace, the space felt frozen by the confrontation's tension. That evening, Meghan sought out Camilla at Clarence's house, recounting the exchange with unbridled fury. Sitting in an armchair, her hands clenched, her voice seethed. "William thinks I'm a threat to Charlotte. He didn't even give me a chance to explain. No respect at all." Camilla, in the dim light of the drawing room, listened with a calm, almost expressionless face. When Meghan finished, Camilla sipped her wine, then replied, her voice even but laced with intent. "They're afraid of you, because you're not like them. Don't back down." Camilla's words were like a shot of adrenaline, reigniting Meghan's resolve. She left Clarence's house, her anger now fused with determination. But she didn't realize she was walking into a game Camilla had long planned each step, drawing her closer to isolation. The lines were drawn not just between sisters-in-law, but between two forces in the monarchy: family loyalty versus personal ambition. And at the heart of it all was a little princess, unwittingly, the spark of a storm about to break. In Charlotte's playroom at Kensington Palace, soft light streamed through the windows, illuminating colorful wall murals of castles and ponies. Wooden toys lined the shelves neatly, but the room's heart was a small table where Charlotte sat clutching a crayon, scribbling on paper. Her eyes, usually bright with joy, held a quiet unease. She looked up at Kate, who sat nearby reading a picture book. In a small, trembling voice, as if trying to grasp something beyond her reach, Charlotte asked, "Mommy, is Aunt Meghan mad at me? At the wedding, I saw her look at me like she didn't like me." Her innocent words pierced Kate's heart, the book in her hands closing slowly. Kate knelt to meet Charlotte's eyes, placing a hand on her shoulder, her gaze tender but tinged with pain. "No, my love," she said, her voice steady yet warm. "Aunt Meghan isn't mad at you. You did nothing wrong." But inside, a wave of emotion surged. Kate knew Charlotte, though only 3, had keenly sensed Meghan's cold glare at the wedding, the disdainful look when she dropped her bouquet. That fleeting moment had etched itself into Charlotte's young mind, making her feel an unspoken hostility. Kate gently squeezed her daughter's shoulder, soothing her growing fear. But as a mother, she ached knowing her child was being drawn into an adult conflict. In the weeks that followed, Charlotte's fear of Meghan grew unmistakable. At royal events, she became reserved, her bright eyes avoiding Meghan, her small hands clinging to Kate's dress for protection. During a charity tea in the palace gardens, where royals met children from social organizations, Charlotte stayed glued to Kate's side. Her hands gripped her mother's dress, her eyes flickering with worry whenever Meghan approached. Meghan, in an elegant peach silk dress, flashed a bright but strained smile, trying to engage Charlotte. "Would you like to play with the other kids, Charlotte?" She asked, her voice sweet but lacking genuine warmth, as if performing a role rather than truly caring. Charlotte shook her head, burying her face in Kate's dress, her small body trembling. Her fear stemmed not just from the wedding's cold glance, but from a vague sense that Meghan didn't like her. Though too young to articulate it, Charlotte's sensitivity picked up on Meghan's impatience, a subtle irritation a perceptive child couldn't ignore. Kate smiled politely at Meghan, but her eyes were icy, a wordless warning. "Thank you, Meghan," she said evenly, "but Charlotte's a bit tired today." She bent down, hugging her daughter and leading her to where William was chatting with children. The crowd didn't notice the tension, but reporters, ever watchful, captured Charlotte, clinging to her mother, and Meghan standing alone, her smile fading. The tension peaked at a private meeting in Buckingham Palace, where advisors discussed the upcoming Canada tour schedule. Meghan, seated at the end of a long mahogany table, suddenly spoke up, her voice sharp, but cloaked in feigned concern. "I think Charlotte needs to be taught how to behave properly around adults. A princess shouldn't shy away from people like that, especially at public events. It sends the wrong message. Her words were a direct arrow at Kate, made venomous by targeting Charlotte, a child scared by Meghan's own demeanor. The room fell silent, the air heavy. Advisors lowered their eyes, fingers tapping nervously on the table. Kate, seated opposite Meghan, could no longer hold back. The image of Charlotte trembling her anxious eyes when mentioning Meghan flooded her mind. She stood her gaze like a blade, her voice cold but powerful. "Don't you dare talk about my daughter like that, Meghan. Charlotte doesn't need to be friendly with someone who's frightened her. She felt your glare at the wedding, and so did I. If you want to talk about behavior, start with yourself." Kate's words were a shield defending Charlotte while exposing Meghan's attitude, from the wedding's cold glance to her insincere actions since. William, ever composed, stood beside his wife, his eyes sharp as a blade. "Don't drag my daughter into your schemes," he said, his voice low but commanding, reinforcing Kate's stance. "Charlotte doesn't need lessons from someone who doesn't respect her." His accusation targeted not just Meghan's current words, but everything he'd witnessed since the wedding, a lack of patience and compassion for his daughter. Meghan froze, her lips pressed tight, her eyes flashing with anger and panic. She looked to Camilla, seated at the table's head, hoping for support. But Camilla only raised an eyebrow, her smile cold, as if enjoying a drama she'd anticipated. "I just wanted to help Meghan," said her voice trembling, trying to stay composed. "I didn't mean to offend anyone." But her words couldn't ease the tension. The meeting ended in strain, and as Meghan left, she felt the weight of eyes on her, as if she'd been officially pushed to the monarchy's margins. That evening in Charlotte's warm bedroom, Kate sat by her bedside, reading a fairy tale about a brave princess overcoming darkness. Charlotte, clutching her worn teddy bear, yawned, but asked in a small, worried voice, "Mommy, is the princess ever scared? What if someone doesn't like her?" Her question stabbed Kate's heart, revealing how deeply Charlotte's fear of Meghan had taken root. Kate smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. "Yes, my love," she said softly but firmly. "But the princess always has her family to protect her. I'll always be here, and no one can hurt you." She kissed Charlotte's forehead, turned off the light, but inside a quiet resolve formed. She would do anything to protect her daughter, even if it meant facing Meghan head-on. A week after Trooping the Color, a media storm erupted. The Spectre Post published a leaked photo from the event capturing Meghan's smile as Charlotte sobbed in Kate's arms, her face streaked with tears from the cannon's roar. The fleeting image ignited outrage on social media. Twitter exploded with harsh comments calling Meghan's smile cold and callous, accusing her of mocking a child's fear. The photo trended nationwide, shared tens of thousands of times in under 12 hours. The public, already divided over Meghan's royal role, largely sided with Kate and Charlotte. Articles dissected the photo's details, from Meghan's smile's angle to Charlotte's frightened eyes turning a moment into a symbol of royal division. At Clarence's house, Camilla called an urgent meeting with William, Kate, and media advisors. The elegant drawing room, lit by a crystal chandelier and adorned with ancestral portraits, felt heavy with gravity. Camilla, in a deep green silk dress, sat at the table's head, her voice calm but sharp. She stressed that the situation was spiraling, with Meghan being torn apart by the press, and without action, the monarchy's reputation could suffer. She turned to William and Kate, suggesting a brief statement from one of them, claiming the photo was a misunderstanding and Meghan meant no harm, a move to calm the public and show royal unity. William met Camilla's gaze unwavering. His voice was firm. He wouldn't lie to the public. He'd seen the moment firsthand, and it wasn't a misunderstanding. His words cut through any pretense of reconciliation. Kate sat silently, her hands clasped, her face expressionless. Her silence was a clear stance. She stood with her husband, with her daughter. Camilla raised an eyebrow, her voice dropping to a near whisper, asking if William would let the press tear Meghan apart. William replied without hesitation that he wouldn't let anyone be harmed, but he also wouldn't defend unacceptable behavior, especially involving his daughter. He stood, ending the meeting, leaving a heavy silence in the room. Meanwhile, at her Clarence House apartment, Meghan sat before her laptop, scrolling through articles and Twitter comments. Each word cut into her pride like a knife. She called Camilla, her voice trembling with anger and despair, insisting the photo was misinterpreted, that she was only surprised, not mocking Charlotte. Camilla, on the other end, responded evenly, urging Meghan to speak out, or the public would write her story for her. Her words seemed encouraging, but behind them was a cold smile. Camilla knew every move Meghan made, whether fighting back or staying silent, pushed her closer to a precipice. The next day, a short post appeared on Meghan and Harry's official Instagram, explaining the photo as a misunderstanding, claiming Meghan smiled at Charlotte's sweetness in an unexpected moment. But instead of calming the storm, it fueled more debate. The public split sharply. Some believed Meghan was wronged. Others accused her of whitewashing her actions. Meanwhile, images of Charlotte clinging to Kate, her eyes bright but wary, became a symbol of the monarchy's silent war, a conflict with an uncertain end. After the leaked photo from Trooping the Color, Meghan went silent for nearly 3 weeks. She skipped royal events, avoided interviews, and their social media went quiet. But this wasn't surrender, it was a storm-gathering strength. At the annual Remembrance Day ceremony honoring fallen soldiers, Meghan made a bold move. She formally requested to stand beside Kate during the wreath-laying, calling it a public reconciliation to calm the raging public. Kate rejected the request outright without explanation. William backed her, adding a clear condition: Charlotte would stand with Kate during the ceremony, while Meghan would be placed in the second row per adjusted protocol to avoid further controversy. The decision, cloaked in royal etiquette, sent a stark message. Kate and William wanted no public association with Meghan in this sensitive moment. Tensions exploded at a pre-event media briefing in a private Buckingham Palace room. The air was thick as advisors and press secretaries sat around a table, thick files before them. Meghan, in an elegant gray dress, sat at the table's end, her hands clasped tightly, holding back emotion. Suddenly, she stood, her voice sharp, almost shouting, "I'm treated like an enemy just because William can't separate personal issues from state matters. They think I have ill intentions toward Charlotte. How absurd! I just want reconciliation, but they won't give me a chance." Her words were a bombshell, shattering the room's tense silence. Advisors looked down, and the press secretary flipped through papers, trying to deflect. William at the table's head didn't move, but his eyes were cold as steel. He responded, his voice low but powerful, each word deliberate. "Don't drag my daughter into your victim narrative. If you have an issue with me, say it, but don't make Charlotte a media weapon." His words were a warning, a line not to be crossed. The room froze, no one daring to speak. The next day at the remembrance ceremony, Meghan appeared in a black silk dress, standing alone in the second row, far from Kate and Charlotte. The crowd focused on the ceremony still noticed the clear separation. Kate, in a dignified black dress, held Charlotte's hand, guiding her to place a wreath at the memorial. Charlotte, though only 3, walked with newfound confidence, as if overcoming her earlier fears. Her clear eyes scanned the crowd, but when they met Meghan, she quickly looked away, pressing closer to her mother. That small moment, caught by reporters' lenses, became the next day's headlines. The press ran wild. Kate refuses to stand with Meghan at national ceremony. Meghan stands alone. Royal rift no longer hidden. The public split fiercely. Some praised Kate as a steadfast mother, protecting her child from a threat. Others pitied Meghan, believing she was unfairly isolated by the royal family, denied a chance to reconcile. But Charlotte's wary glance, shared across thousands of social media posts, spoke volumes. A child, however small, had sensed a truth no explanation from Meghan could erase. Morning light streamed through Kensington Palace's large windows, illuminating Kate's oak desk as she reviewed the royal schedule. The thick pages detailed trips, engagements, and intricate protocols, but her eyes paused on a small note: tomorrow's charity tea. Charlotte, in a soft pink silk dress, clutching her worn teddy bear, approached her mother. Hesitant, her small hands gripping the bear, she asked in a clear but anxious voice, "Mommy, tomorrow's tea, is Aunt Meghan coming?" Kate froze, the schedule closing slowly. She looked into her daughter's eyes, where innocence mixed with unnamed unease. A brief silence filled the room, as if time stood still. Then Kate replied, her voice gentle but firm, "No, my love, she won't be there." Her words carried the weight of a promise, an absolute shield for her daughter. Charlotte nodded, her eyes brightening slightly, as if a hidden burden lifted. She hugged her bear tighter, whispering, "Then I'll go." Her small voice held relief, as if freed from a fear she couldn't fully express. Kate stroked her daughter's golden hair, saying nothing more. In that moment, no words were needed to affirm the final boundary of family and principle. Charlotte, though just a child, had become a symbol of a mother's protection and loyalty. Across town in her Clarence House apartment, Meghan sat alone gazing out the window. London's dim streetlights cast a faint glow on her face, where a silent tear fell. She flipped through the papers on her table, their harsh headlines burning into her mind. Meghan isolated cold smile. Princess Charlotte frightened. She'd fought to fit in to claim her place in the monarchy, but every step, whether to reconcile or assert herself, only deepened her isolation. Meghan reached for her phone, her finger hovering over Camilla's number, but she stopped. Camilla's words, "Don't back down," had once been a spark, but now they felt like a whisper leading her into a maze with no exit. She realized she'd become a pawn in a larger game, one Camilla had orchestrated with a cold smile. Meghan set the phone down, her gaze lost in London's night. She'd lost not for lack of effort, but because the monarchy wasn't a place for personal ambitions or schemes. In the room's silence, Meghan faced a painful truth. She'd not only lost public support, but also any chance to truly belong in the royal family. How will Charlotte's fear of Meghan affect her in the future? Can Meghan change how Charlotte and the royal family perceive her? Or is the rift too deep to mend?